Joe Hopkins here. It's great to be back with you guys. I thought I'd talk about one of our favorite subjects on this channel, like budget guitars, right? I got my trusty Firefly with me here, just as a demonstration model. This is about guitars in general. Now, when you're buying a guitar, you're spending like a little bit of money on a budget guitar. What are the parts that matter? What are the parts that maybe aren't that big a deal, right? When you're spending thousands of dollars on an expensive guitar, you expect it to be perfect, right? Now, unfortunately, that doesn't always happen, but you kind of, the more money you spend, the more you expect it. But with budget guitars, you kind of know some things are going to be great and some things are going to be not so great. It might all just be mediocre. So what matters more than other things? And what matters less? Well, I'll go over what matters a little bit less here. And, whenever they advertise these things, there's always a lot of hype. Their own marketing is always, it has this, it has that, and they play up certain things. And does it matter? And I'll say, like, one of the least important things, in my opinion, is tuners. And I mean, tuners are important. Tuning stability is important. Tuners and the bridge and saddle are important things, but they're also very easily replaceable. I mean, they're easy to replace. Tuners aren't terribly expensive to get decent ones. You could spend some money and get like real high-end ones. You can get locking tuners. You can get, whatever it is you want to get, and they're pretty easy to change out. Tuners ain't that big a deal. So, not that worried about them. Same thing with like the bridge in a lot of electric guitars, most of them. They're not hard to change. The saddle a lot of times isn't hard to change. On these Les Paul style guitars, the little pegs that hold the bridge in place can be kind of a pain because you got to pull them out or tap new ones in. But you usually don't have to change those. The actual bridge, once you take the strings off, the bridge just comes off. The saddle, it's kind of the same way. The hardware on these is pretty easy to change. And it's not that hard on a lot of inexpensive electric guitars to change that kind of stuff. So I don't see where it matters a whole lot. You know what I mean? And a lot of places, they play up how good their hardware is, and meh. It's not difficult or expensive to fix that. So that's not a deal breaker in my opinion. Most people aren't as concerned about the pickups, right? They're not as, because you can change those. Pickups aren't terribly expensive most of the time. And depending on your soldering skills, they're not that difficult to change out either. Same thing with the electronics. I consider the body of the guitar to be one of, maybe less important than the tuners, to be honest with you. Most of the bodies are solid wood, as long as it's not like plywood or something. Everybody pretends like the wood, what kind of wood makes that big a difference with sound. It does in acoustic guitars, but in electric guitars, 99% of the sound, the tone you're getting, is out of the pickup. So the body, as long as you like the way it looks, you like the way it feels, that's mostly what matters, right? If it's a body, it's a guitar body. What difference does it make? I think Les Paul pretty much showed you could put two pickups on a on a log, on just a hunk of wood, and it works great. It's all about the pickups, and pickups aren't that hard to change. You can get them on Amazon. You can get pickups on eBay. GuitarFetish.com has their quick plug system, so if you change out the pickups and the electronics, you can do it without having to solder. No soldering is nice, right? If you have a Strat style guitar, you can get those loaded pick guards that already have all the pickups and electronics in it, and you just change out the pick guard. You only have to really worry about soldering one wire. That's nice. That's a really nice kind of thing there. And some places even, some kits, wiring kits even have like the little crimp things instead of soldering. I prefer soldering, but if you're not, if you prefer the crimp type, man, they have those. They have those too. So not a lot on this guitar do I consider to be really all that difficult to fix or change out, except for one thing. And here's the most important thing to be concerned about with your budget guitar. and that's the neck. And I include the frets with that. And in all seriousness, it's because the neck is, in my opinion, the most difficult thing to change out. Now, you got the nut up here. That's not that hard. You know, a little bit of glue, you can change that. But the neck itself, the whole thing, that is a pain in the butt, especially on this where it's a set neck. You're not changing the neck. And unlike the body, there's more that can go wrong with the neck. The body is just a hunk of wood that holds the pickups and electronics and the hardware. It's just a platform for all that. The neck actually is what performs on the guitar. And if you have a bad neck, if you have a neck that just doesn't seem to stay right, or, you know, you get a lot of fret buzz, or you can't get it adjusted right, that can be a problem, right? Same thing with the frets. You can fix problems with frets. Like this Firefly, the thing I love about it, great neck, great frets, right? No sharp fret ends, that kind of thing. But, you know, it's a little bit of a skill to deal with frets. You know, filing sharp fret ends doesn't seem like it would be that hard, but there is some skill to it, and there's some difficulty to it, and you can mess it up. You know what I mean? You can damage the finish, you can damage your neck if you really don't know what you're doing. And it's not a real difficult skill set, but it's hard enough. And making sure your frets are level, at least level enough so that you can get a decent action without getting a ton of fret buzz or dead spots. You know, you can learn to level frets, but it's more technically involved, I think, than a lot of the other things on the guitar. You'd think the electronics would be harder. Maybe it is for some people. I personally find frets to be a bigger pain in my butt, as far as if I have to fix them. So I really like nice frets, and especially a good neck. And even on the types of guitars like Tellies and Strats with bolt-on necks, when you get a budget guitar, sometimes it's a standard, you know, Fender style neck, and if you buy a new one, everything lines up. You know, you can just change out a bolt-on neck. But sometimes the holes don't line up because it's not exactly the same. And sometimes it's not exactly the same length or the same number of frets, and it's not a standard like Fender style neck. And if you get something that isn't a Telly or a Strat type guitar, you might end up with with a neck that is just different, man. Maybe it's got the bolt holes line up different. It's proprietary to that type of guitar, and it can be a pain in the butt to replace. So, you know, I know I'm getting to the point pretty quick, but yeah, the neck is, to me, the most important part of a guitar, right? And unfortunately, you know, you don't see a lot of companies advertising how good their necks are. Now, I've bought a lot of budget guitars. I got to be honest with you, my favorite necks so far, and this is just a little bit of advice for anybody that's looking for them. The best necks on the budget ones, I really like the one on this Firefly. Harley Benton has never let me down. Hard Luck Kings, the guitar I got from them, has a really great neck, and Xavier, they have a really great neck. My Glary was $100, and it's got a good neck. I wouldn't say it's great, it's good. My Grote, it's got a good neck. But there's something about getting a really good neck on your guitar, and it's why I picked out the Firefly for this. It really has probably one of my favorite necks of all the guitars I own. It's a really, really good one. Right, overall, the guitar itself isn't the best one in my collection, but the neck is one of the best. I think it's why people really like these guitars. And yeah, that's the thing that's hard to fix, obviously, right? Everything else, honestly, man, it really is easy. And I always wonder about the companies that advertise the quality of the strings they put on it. Like, strings aren't the easiest thing on here to change. You're going to have to change them anyway, eventually. Like, who cares? They could put the cheapest thing on here. I'm going to put new strings on it anyway. But yeah, hardware isn't hard to change. Don't be afraid of getting out a screwdriver and changing out some of the easier parts on your guitar. Don't be afraid to get a budget guitar because some of the parts might be less than great. As long as you get something with at least a good neck, you're doing pretty good. You got a good place to start off with. And a lot of people like upgrading their guitars anyway, which is why a lot of the times the hardware and the pickups, people aren't that concerned about it. Because you're going to, a lot of people are going to change the pickups. They might get this and they're like, the pickups are okay, but I really want a particular sound, so I think I'm going to get like Gibson pickups and put it in it. Or I think I'm going to get some ESPs or something like that, Get something you prefer that fits in the guitar and change it out to that. And that happens a lot. People change electronics in guitars all the time. Right? In fact, that's a pretty big thing to do. A lot of companies cater to that. But if you can find one with a good neck, you got a good place to start, especially on a solid body electric. Right? Not much else is not fixable on this. And like I said, the body, I don't even know why they advertise certain things. Yeah, great, it's mahogany, it's got a maple cap, all that wonderful stuff. That might be great for looks, but I don't see where it changes the sound a lot. I'm sure people will argue with me in the comments. That's just my opinion. The pickups have more to do with it than anything else. And the neck has more to do with the playability than anything else. And, I mean, if you are having problems with parts on your guitar, keep in mind, your tuning stability, a lot of it has to do with the tuners, the saddle, the bridge, the nut, all the stuff the strings touch, right? If you want to fix the sound of your guitar, if it's an electric, especially a solid body electric like this one, your pickups, your electronics, right? Because, hey, pots, switches, they change the way the electric flows, and, yeah, they can affect the sound. Same thing with the output jack. The output jack on your guitar can change the way it works. Shielding inside, you add shielding, and it can change the way your guitar sounds. It can improve the tone of your guitar. But all the playability is in the neck, and the neck can be the hardest thing to fix. Sometimes it's an impossible thing to fix. And especially on set neck guitars, it can be a very difficult thing to change out. So there you have it. That's my opinion on the most and least important things on your budget guitar. Now, that doesn't just apply to budget guitars. That applies to all guitars. But like I said, if you spend $3,000 on a guitar, you expect it to be right. And probably if you spend that much on a guitar and it's not right, the company will make it right. Whereas when you spend $200 on a guitar, you're in serious risk of the company just ignoring you when you tell them it's not right. Which, hey, it happens, right? You dive yourself into the deep end of budget guitars, and that happens. Some companies are great, some companies not so much. The more you spend, the more attention you're likely to get from the company. But, yeah. Good neck. That's what you want. And with that, hey, subscribe to my channel. I'm going to do more videos like this. I hope you liked this one. I hope it was informative. And hey, man, I love you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Peace out, baby. Bye-bye.